The ultimatum. The skies above Manhattan shimmered like disturbed water as reality itself seemed to bend and tear open. Through this wound in the cosmos emerged a vessel of impossible proportions, a city-sized structure of gleaming obsidian that reflected nothing yet somehow contained the void of space within its surface. Traffic stopped. People stood frozen in streets, on rooftops, and behind windows, necks craned upward at humanity's first concrete evidence that we were not alone. Similar scenes played out across the globe as identical ships materialized above Beijing, Moscow, London, Cairo, and 17 other major population centers. The world held its breath, waiting. Commander Sanve Mehta sprinted through the corridors of the United Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva, tablet clutched against her chest. Around her, the facility transformed into controlled chaos. Analysts shouting coordinates, military personnel rushing to stations, and the constant blare of alerts. She burst into the command center where Admiral Zhou Chen stood rigid before the massive holographic display, showing all 22 alien vessels in stationary positions around the globe. "Status report," the Admiral demanded without turning. Sanvi moved beside him, flipping through data on her tablet. "Sir, all ships are maintaining position in low Earth orbit. No aggressive maneuvers detected. Ground forces are deployed per Protocol Zeta. The Security Council awaits your assessment." The Admiral nodded, eyes never leaving the display. "And communication attempts. We've transmitted on all known frequencies using standard first contact protocols. No response. For 16 excruciating hours, the ships remained silent sentinels above Earth's cities. Then, without warning, every digital display on the planet, from military-grade monitors to civilian smartphones, flickered to the same image, a being that resembled a mantis crossed with something vaguely cetacean. Its chitin gleamed with an iridescent sheen, and when it spoke, multiple mandibles clicked in unsettling synchronization with the words that appeared as subtitles across the bottom of each screen. Civilization designation: Earth. Classification: resource-rich developing world. Status: now under protection and guidance of the Hegemony Council of Advanced Species. The alien's voice came through as a series of modulated tones that somehow conveyed cold authority. "I am Overseer of Excal, appointed administrator of your world's integration. Your species has reached the threshold where intervention is permitted by hegemony law. This is a standard procedure for species of your development level." The mandibles clicked faster, displaying what might have been excitement. "This is a momentous occasion. You are being granted the opportunity to become part of the most advanced collective of civilizations in this spiral arm. In exchange for our guidance and protection, the hegemony requires an initial tribute of 30% of your world's refined metals, rare earth elements, and potable water. Additionally, 1 million of your kind will be selected for educational relocation to serve the hegemony and learn our ways." The alien paused, mandible stilling. "You have 7 solar cycles to prepare the initial tribute. Resistance is inadvisable and historically unsuccessful. Communication systems for your planetary leaders will be established momentarily to facilitate this transition." The screens went dark, then returned to their normal functions, as if nothing had happened. In the stunned silence of the command center, Admiral Zhou's voice was barely audible. "They want our resources, and they want us." "Slaves," Sanvi whispered. "They're demanding slaves." 20 minutes later, the Emergency Planetary Council convened, a hastily assembled group of Earth's most powerful nations' leaders, military commanders, and scientific experts. The virtual meeting buzzed with panic, outrage, and desperate suggestions. "We must comply and buy time," insisted President Liu of the Chinese Federation. "Their technology is clearly centuries beyond ours." Chancellor Müller of the European Alliance shook her head. "Appeasement only leads to greater demands. History has taught us this repeatedly." "And what do you suggest?" President Okafor of the African Union challenged. "Our most advanced weapons would be like throwing stones at a battleship." As arguments flared, Dr. Elijah Khatri, head of the Global Physics Institute, requested permission to speak. The aging physicist's usually animated face was uncharacteristically grave. "I believe I may have found something of significance," he began, pushing his glasses up his nose. "My team has been analyzing the energy signatures of these vessels since they appeared. There's an unusual pattern in their quantum field dispersion. It suggests their technology functions on principles fundamentally different from our theoretical understanding." "Cut to the chase, Doctor," Admiral Joe interrupted. "How does this help us?" Dr. Khatri nodded. "Their technology appears to rely on a particularly stable form of quantum entanglement, one that facilitates instant communication and likely their form of travel. However, this system has a peculiar vulnerability. It's extraordinarily sensitive to random quantum field disruptions of a specific frequency, a frequency we've been experimenting with in our research into practical quantum communications." The room fell silent. "Are you suggesting," Admiral Joe said slowly, "that we might have a weapon they haven't anticipated?" "Not exactly a weapon," Dr. Khatri replied, "but potentially a significant disruption to their systems, something they might not have defenses against, precisely because it's based on principles they've evolved beyond." President Okafor leaned forward. "How long would it take to develop this disruption?" "We already have experimental prototypes," Dr. Khatri replied. "With unlimited resources and global cooperation, perhaps 5 days to scale up." Admiral Joe's expression hardened into resolve. "We'll need a diversion, something to make them believe we're complying while we prepare." And so began the most significant covert operation in human history. While diplomatic channels opened with the hegemony, with Earth's representatives appearing suitably cowed and cooperative, beneath the surface, humanity raced against time. Dr. Khatri's team worked around the clock, transforming theoretical quantum disruptors into deployable technology. Military forces worldwide converted existing missile systems to carry the devices. Engineers and programmers created a distributed control system that could coordinate a simultaneous global attack. Meanwhile, the hegemony began small-scale resource collection operations, landing shuttle-like craft in remote areas to extract mineral samples and establish processing centers. Their confidence was absolute. They operated with minimal security, their technology so advanced that human interference seemed inconsequential. On the 5th day, Overseer Vexkel requested a progress meeting with Earth's designated representatives. Sanvi accompanied Admiral Joe to the temporary hegemony embassy established in what had been the United Nations headquarters in New York. The Overseer loomed over them, nearly 3 meters tall, body segments shifting in what seemed like perpetual discomfort with Earth's gravity. "Your cooperation has been noted," the alien stated, mandibles clicking. "It is refreshing to encounter a species that recognizes the futility of resistance. The hegemony rewards wisdom." Admiral Joe bowed slightly. "We are practical people, Overseer. We understand our position. Indeed, your preliminary resource assessments have been most thorough. The Council will be pleased." The alien's compound eyes seemed to study Joe carefully. "There are rumors of unusual energy signatures being detected at several military installations. I trust these are merely adjustments to your power grids to accommodate our processing centers." Sanvi felt her heart rate spike, but Admiral Joe's expression remained impassive. "Yes, Overseer. We are upgrading several key infrastructures to meet your specifications. Nothing more." The massive alien seemed to consider this, mandibles working silently. "Very well. I expect the first tribute ships to begin loading within 2 cycles. Prepare your selected population for educational relocation as well. The processing will be painless, I assure you." As they left the building, Sanvi whispered, "They suspect something." Admiral Joe nodded almost imperceptibly. "Then we move tonight. Alert all commands. Operation Defiance begins at midnight GMT. Across the planet, in bunkers and submarines, from desert bases and mountain fortresses, humanity prepared to announce its answer to the hegemony's demands. It would be delivered not in words, but in actions that would echo across the stars. That night, as Overseer Vexcal transmitted his daily report to the Hegemony Council, commending Earth for its submission, the first quantum disruptors activated. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the alien technology. Shield systems fluctuated wildly. Communication networks dissolved into chaos. Navigation systems failed, sending several shuttles plummeting from the sky. And on every communication channel, transmitted to the hegemony ships in their own language, was humanity's one-word response to their demands: Defiance. Dawn broke over a changed world. The massive hegemony vessels hung dead in orbit, their sleek forms now marred by flickering energy discharges as internal systems fought against the quantum disruption. On the ground, alien shuttles lay disabled, their crews suddenly vulnerable without their technological advantages. In Geneva, Sombley stood beside Admiral Zhao in the command center, watching real-time footage from around the globe. Special forces teams moved in to secure grounded alien craft. Scientists rushed to examine disabled hegemony technology before the aliens could recover. Status report, Zhao demanded, his voice hoarse from the sleepless night. Quantum disruptors functioning at 97% efficiency, reported the technical officer. All 22 primary vessels are immobilized. Ground teams have secured 14 shuttlecraft and captured approximately 200 hegemony personnel. Sanvi allowed herself a moment of hope. It worked better than we anticipated. Don't celebrate yet, Zhou cautioned. This is only the beginning of their response. As if summoned by his words, alarms blared throughout the command center. A junior officer shouted, multiple new signatures detected, appearing beyond lunar orbit. The main display shifted to show a terrifying new development. A massive fleet of hegemony warships materializing from folded space. Unlike the sleek administrative vessels that had first appeared, these were angular, predatory shapes bristling with what could only be weapon systems. They called for reinforcements, Zhu murmured. Of course they had contingencies. A communication request flashed on the main screen. Zhao nodded, and the display changed to show a different hegemony representative. This one covered in scarlet armor plates, its mandibles adorned with metallic enhancements. I am War Overseer Kazvekt of the Hegemony Enforcement Division, the alien announced without preamble. Your resistance is noted and classified as Level 3 insurgency. Protocol dictates planetary punishment followed by forced subjugation. Your species had a path to peaceful integration. You have chosen extinction instead. Admiral Zhao stepped forward. We chose freedom, War Overseer. Humanity does not submit to threats or demands. We are willing to establish peaceful relations with the hegemony as equals, but we will not be slaves or a resource to be harvested. The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly in what might have been laughter. Equality? Your species is barely a millennium into your technological development. You are children playing with forces beyond your understanding. Your primitive attack was effective only because it was unanticipated. That advantage is now lost. Perhaps, Zhao acknowledged. But you may find we have other surprises. The War Overseer's compound eyes gleamed. You have 6 hours to disable your disruption devices and surrender your planetary leadership for processing. After that, we begin systematic reduction of your population centers, starting with what you call Geneva. The communication ended abruptly. Evacuation protocols for all major cities, immediately, Zhao ordered, and activate Phase 2. Sanvi followed him to a secure elevator that descended deep beneath the command center. Sir, Phase 2 wasn't scheduled to be operational for another 3 days. Dr. Caftry assured me the primary functions are ready, Zhao replied as they descended. We just won't have as many as we'd hoped. The elevator opened to reveal an enormous underground hangar, stretching beyond sight. Within it stood rows of sleek aircraft unlike any in Earth's known arsenals, vessels with smooth organic curves, and a strange, rippling surface that seemed to bend light around them. The Aurora program, Sanvi breathed. They're actually finished. Admiral Zhou nodded grimly. 57 operational units, built using reverse-engineered technology from the Kisumu incident. 3 years earlier, a small scout ship of unknown origin had crashed in Kenya. The global powers had kept it secret from the public, while the world's best scientists studied its remains. Now, Sanvi realized they had done far more than study. These vessels incorporate quantum disruption technology directly into their propulsion and weapons systems, Zhao explained as they walked past the nearest ship. They're also equipped with rudimentary versions of the hegemony's folded space drive, based on Dr. Kaftri's theories. Not as efficient as theirs, but enough to give us mobility they won't expect. Who's piloting them? Sanvi asked. The best we have, drawn from every air force on the planet. Zhao checked his watch. They launch in 20 minutes. Above Earth, the hegemony war fleet began moving into position, spreading out to establish a blockade around the planet. Their massive weapons systems powered up, targeting major population centers as promised. What they didn't anticipate was the sudden appearance of 57 small craft emerging from Earth's atmosphere, moving with impossible speed and agility. The Aurora vessels struck with precision, their quantum disruption weapons bypassing hegemony shields entirely, targeting propulsion and weapon systems. In orbit, chaos erupted. The hegemony ships, designed to intimidate through overwhelming power, suddenly found themselves vulnerable to attacks they couldn't defend against. Several smaller vessels exploded as their power cores destabilized under the quantum assault. War Overseer Kazvekt raged from the command deck of the flagship as reports of failures cascaded in. Impossible. Their technology is primitive. They cannot have developed quantum-phased weapons. His subordinate clicked nervously. The humans are using modified versions of our own technology against us. Analysis suggests they've had access to hegemony systems prior to our arrival. The scout vessel, Kazvekt realized. The one lost in this sector 3 cycles ago. They salvaged it. His armor plates flared in fury. Launch all fighters. Target their atmosphere. If we cannot have this world's resources, no one will. The battle that followed would later be known as the 6-Hour War. Across Earth's orbit, human and hegemony vessels engaged in desperate combat. The Auroras, despite their advanced technology, were outnumbered 15 to 1. Yet they fought with a ferocity that stunned the hegemony forces. On the ground, humanity watched the battle unfold through amateur telescopes and military feeds. Flashes of light in the night sky marked the deaths of ships and pilots on both sides. Cities remained under evacuation orders. Citizens huddled in bunkers and subway tunnels, waiting to learn if they had a future. In Geneva, Sanvi coordinated with global defense forces as Admiral Zhou communicated with the Aurora squadron leaders. Reports filtered in, both triumphant and devastating. Aurora vessels were being destroyed one by one, but each took multiple hegemony ships with them. Aurora leader to command, came a static-fill transmission. We've identified the enemy flagship, massive vessel at coordinates 42 to 18.7. Heavily defended. Zhao leaned toward the communication array. Can you breach their defenses? A pause, filled with the sounds of distant explosions. Negative. Command. Not without sacrificing the remaining squadron. Hold position and continue current engagement, Zhou ordered. Then, after muting the transmission, he turned to Sanvi. Prepare my shuttle. Her eyes widened. Sir. The prototype, he said quietly. It's time. In a separate hangar, even deeper beneath Geneva, sat a single vessel larger than the others. Designated Aurora Prime, it contained the most advanced systems they had managed to develop, and the most dangerous. The probability field generator isn't stable, Sanvi protested as they walked toward it. Dr. Kaftri said it could collapse at any moment, creating a localized black hole. Which is precisely why I'm taking it. Zhao replied calmly. This ends now, one way or another. 20 minutes later, Aurora Prime emerged from Earth's atmosphere, its experimental drive creating ripples in space-time that disoriented hegemony sensors. While the remaining Aurora squadron engaged the enemy fighters in a coordinated attack, Zhao's vessel slipped through the chaos, heading directly for the hegemony flagship. Aurora Prime to command. Zhao transmitted. Approaching target. Probability field stable at 62%. Sanvi's voice came through, professional despite her fear. Acknowledged, Aurora Prime. All remaining squadrons are providing diversion as planned. Aboard the hegemony flagship, War Overseer Kazvect received urgent alerts. Unknown vessel approaching on unusual trajectory. Energy signature doesn't match known patterns. Destroy it, he ordered dismissively, more concerned with the broader battle. His forces were still winning through sheer numbers, despite unexpected losses. The defensive batteries turned toward Aurora Prime, but the vessel's probability field caused their targeting systems to register it in multiple positions simultaneously. Shots went wide as the computer struggled to identify the true location of the threat. Zhao guided the vessel directly toward the flagship's command center, visible as a protruding structure near the front of the massive ship. Aurora Prime to command. Probability field failing, down to 31%. Proceeding with final approach. In Geneva, Sanvi watched the trajectory with growing dread. He's not planning to fire on them, she realized. He's going to ram the command center. Aurora Prime accelerated to its maximum velocity, its failing probability field causing it to flicker in and out of normal space. Defense systems continued to fire, most shots passing harmlessly through space where the vessel appeared to be but wasn't. Aurora Prime to Earth, Zhao transmitted, his voice calm. It has been an honor to serve humanity. Remember this moment not as one of destruction, but of affirmation. We are not property to be claimed. We are not resources to be harvested. We are humanity, and we determine our own destiny. The vessel slammed into the hegemony flagship's command center at near relativistic speed. The probability field generator collapsed at the moment of impact, creating a localized space-time distortion that tore through the massive ship like tissue paper. The flagship broke apart, secondary explosions cascading along its length as power systems failed catastrophically. Across the battlefield, hegemony vessels faltered as their command structure disintegrated. Some continued fighting, but most began emergency jumps away from Earth, retreating to safe distances. Within hours, the remaining hegemony forces had withdrawn beyond the orbit of Mars. A final transmission reached Earth's communication systems. The Hegemony Council acknowledges your species' unexpected capabilities and determination. Your classification has been updated to high-risk independent development. A formal diplomatic delegation will be dispatched to negotiate terms. This world is hereby removed from the Resource Acquisition Registry. 3 days later, as Earth began to rebuild and mourn its losses, a small monument was erected in Geneva's Central Plaza. It bore no grand inscriptions, no elaborate artwork, just a simple plaque with Admiral Zhou Chen's final words, and beneath them, the single word that had launched humanity's defiance. No. In the decades that followed, Earth would establish true diplomatic relations with the hegemony and other galactic powers. Human quantum technology would revolutionize interstellar travel and communication. The Aurora program would evolve into a genuine space fleet, and throughout the galaxy, a new understanding spread about the third planet from an unremarkable yellow star. When humanity says no, the wise listen.